Hello, once again, this is Matt with another Practical Tips video. This time we're talking about a new approach to paying off a credit card. As many of us know from personal experience, those balances can get to be quite something to pay off. Unfortunately, people make a mistake of trying to or actually living off of credit cards, which is a bad idea, of course. And so then you can rack up some really serious balances, and they can be quite hard to pay down. And I want to show you a technique here that I don't think many people have really thought of that makes a big difference in how easily that you can pay these credit cards down more quickly and really reduce your balance. So you can get that, you can basically keep these things under control, and then going forward and not getting into so much trouble with paying these and going into a lot of debt when it's not really necessary. So I want to show you here. I've got basically a sample credit card account set up here. I've got showing a balance up here in the corner of $100, and so it's pretty straightforward. Now we've got something that's kind of expensive here because this is an APR of 24%. This is probably an APR that you'd get right now if you didn't have really good credit score and you applied for a card. These interest rates have recently gone up, as you probably have heard in the news. And matter of fact, I just saw a credit union here not too long ago in our local area that they raised their minimum interest rate that they charge on one of their more affordable cards from 12% up to 14%. And credit unions are nonprofits, so if they're bumping those up 2% on the low end, then things are changing. So now if you take this interest rate and you divide it by 365 days, you get this 0.066% interest rate. That's the daily rate, and that is important for the following reason. What you have to remember when you carry a balance and you do pay interest from month to month on the credit card, you have to understand that the interest compounds daily. Okay, so interest is calculated and then added into the account every day. All right, so if we go back and look at this example, you can see I've got 28 days in the month set up here. So on your first day of interest, if we look at day number 1 up here, you see that we have $100 and now 66 cents because of that daily interest rate. All right, now it's charging, in this case, the bank is charging that interest rate on this $100 balance. That's only going to happen the one time. When we get to day 2, all right, the interest is now being charged on the previous day's balance. It's not being charged again on that $100. It's being charged on the $100.66. So now you can see we're up to $101.32. And as you can see in this spreadsheet, this accumulates pretty dramatically throughout the month. And by the time you get to day 28, you end up with a pretty expensive arrangement here. So the real question then becomes is, what do you do to avoid this situation? How can you kind of get around this? Because this interest is compounding, and so basically it's working against you at a very fast rate. So what you want to do is, first of all, you want to look at your minimum monthly payment. Now, in this example, we could estimate, say, for example, a minimum monthly payment of about, let's say, maybe $50, right? So you say, okay, I've got a minimum monthly payment of $50, and you're not going to get very far very fast paying only $50 a month, with this, minimum monthly payment. The minimum monthly payment is not, that's just designed to keep your account in good standing. It is not designed to help you pay off the credit card, because let's face it, the interest that the bank is charging you, that's their profit, okay? That's what they make on loaning you the money on this credit card. So, the minimum monthly payment is not designed to help you pay it off. It just keeps your account in good standing. That's pretty much all that does. So what you really want to do is you look at and say, okay, well, what's a practical amount that you actually could pay down on this credit card? So for this example, we're going to use $100. And what I'm going to suggest to you is that you do not want to pay this once a month on the due date. All right. So let's say in this example that maybe your due date is in the last week of the month. I'm going to say maybe around, say, maybe the 26th or the 27th of the month. Okay. Well, instead of paying the $100 on that day, and then you're going to end up paying all that month's interest pretty much, what you want to do is you want to take your $100, and I'm going to suggest that you use your online banking and go ahead and break this up, because it's easier to do these payments with the online banking, and they'll usually take effect right away. Okay, so instead of doing the $100, what you want to do is you want to break it up into $25 monthly payments. I'm sorry, weekly payments. And so what happens is this is going to drastically impact how quickly you can pay this card down. And we say, well, why is that? Well, because although your interest is still compounding daily, when the bank receives a payment, you basically are creating a new balance. Okay? You've made a new starting balance, all right? So we said at the beginning, remember, we said that this balance up here, $100, that was the new starting balance. That's the starting balance for the month on the account. Okay? And one of the reasons for that is presumably because you made a payment the prior month, right? So this is, what was there. So what we're doing here is once you make a payment, you've basically created a new starting balance. And what that means is the interest has to start over. The interest resets back to charging you as if you had a new starting balance. So instead, at the end of the month, what you've done, if you break up your payments in 4 weekly $25 payments using your online banking, then what you have done is you've only paid a week's worth of interest, or maybe even less if you schedule these earlier in the week. So for example, if the dates on these were the 2nd, the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd, you wouldn't be paying very much interest. Okay? So then you've only accumulated a week's worth of interest instead of an entire month's worth. Okay? It is much cheaper to pay 7 days of interest than it is to pay all 28 days of interest, because the interest just accumulates on each day on top of the previous, and so it just builds up and builds, because you always have the balance for the next day is always higher. It's always going up because the interest is always getting added in and raising that balance up. So if you can pay 7 days of interest instead of all 28 at once, you're much, much better off, and you'll find that this pays down that credit card a lot quicker. Now, in some cases, hey, maybe you've got several cards you need to pay off. All right, maybe your budget's running a little tight or something, and so maybe you can't even double up exactly your $50 minimum payment up to $100. All right, maybe you can't do that. So maybe you can only tack on a little bit. Well, fine, tack it on. And even if you can't do 4 weekly payments, or if you think that's maybe too much to keep track of, although your online banking will be doing it for you, at least make 2 payments a month. Take the total that you pay, split it up, make sure that your second payment is still before your actual due date, and pay it twice a month. But at least work it out so that you can make multiple payments a month, so you really are attacking that interest rather than letting it build up over a longer period. Okay? 4 weeks of interest is always going to be more expensive than just 1 week. All right? So you want to pay as little as you possibly can. And this method, I think, you'll find will help you really pay down the card that much faster, and that will eventually make life a lot easier on you, and you can get to the point where you pay this thing off and maybe even close it out if you need to once you're all done. So I just want to give you that as a useful tip. I think a lot of people have not either heard of this or it just isn't very well publicized. And like I say, a lot of banks are not going to tell you anything like this because they're making money on that interest at a very substantial rate. So thank you for your attention. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we look forward to seeing you again, of course, on the next video. Once again, this is Matt with Practical Tips. Thank you.